Sup you beautiful people. Hope you've had a fantastic day. Welcome back to another new episode of What If Naruto Was a League Summoner. If you guys enjoyed this what if, comment down below and let me know. And go ahead and check out other what ifs in the channel after watching this video. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a like, and also share this video with your friends. So now let's start this video. It was the morning of the departure, and Naruto was currently helping Ashia and Irina with their luggage, having no problem carrying them for the two girls with Zenovia as they walked into the train station, where the leaders of the devil factions and Asgard had joined force to set up a path that would take them to the underworld. From what he had heard from Momo, Sona and her peerage had already gone on ahead with their own train, while Sakvara and Saryar just teleported back to their home in the underworld using teleportation magic circle. Apparently, it was a tradition for new devils to travel to the underworld for the first time by train, which would only take a couple of hours if they departed from a station in Japan. Now that they were in Iceland, it would probably take them at least half a day to get there. Oh goody, can't say that I am not looking forward to this trip. Please behave, Wani-sama. Graphia-san is looking at you. Kaneko spoke nonchalantly to her sister, who just turned her head and smiled playfully at the silver-haired maid. Graphia had joined them earlier this morning to keep watch on Kuroka, the still one of the most dangerous criminals in the underworld, but not that she seemed to care, as she had casually decided that she would be coming along with Office. They had gotten an honored invitation from Surziches and Serafo themselves, and Lafay as they go there with Naruto and the rest. But looking at the bright side, Kaneko was no longer trying to ignore her sister, and had started to openly talk to her, despite still acting annoyed at her mischievous antics. Naruto had no doubt that Kaneko had yet to forgive her sister for doing what she did, leaving her behind after murdering her master, but their relationship sure had gotten somewhat better. Naruto had also heard that Kaneko had asked her sister to train her in the art of senjutsu and yujutsu, showing that she too, like him, had come to believe that the reason why Kuroka had killed her master wasn't because she was drunk with her own powers like everyone had assumed. On a side note, Gasper could be seen wearing a brown paper bag over his head, looking the creepiest while nervously hiding behind a Keno, as a curious Office tried to poke him with a stick. It had been another one of Kaneko's ideas, as according to her, if no one could hide his face from the world, then he wouldn't be so afraid of everyone. Despite sounding rather weird and somewhat stupid, it worked marvelously and allowed Gasper to travel with them, without needing to hide himself in his box, which they would have to carry around with their luggage. There's our train. Rias pointed her hand at the train that looked the most out of place in this small train station, but for some reason people seemed to be avoiding, and some even outright not even looking at it. It must be because of magic, Naruto thought. Nevertheless, the train was larger and longer than any train that Naruto had ever seen, with a beautifully crafted steam engine shimmering in the warm sunlight. The surface polished to a shine of red and gold, so clear that he could even see their own reflection on the glittering steel surface, even though the group was standing several meters away. The onboard service crew, who were dressed in crimson uniforms with the crest of the Gremory household, then helped them carry their luggage into the train, allowing Naruto and everyone to board the train, walking on plush red carpet as they stepped in. The inside of the train had dark red walls and the ribbed ceiling, and rather than having several chairs lining the sides like a normal train, there were numerous couches centered around tables, the kind one could expect from a fancy and high-class 5-star hotel. Much like the private jet they had used to travel to Iceland. Ring. The whistle blew and soon the train began to take off. Eventually, they split up into small groups, with Kuroka and Lafay sitting together. The older Nekashu wanted her sister to sit with her, but it seemed that Kaneko had a different idea as she waited for something. Ashia, Zenovia and Irina of course, sat with each other in near Office, who had an entire couch for herself as she sat there alone playing video games on a gaming console. On the table in front of her was a box that people could put their money in, if they wanted to make a wish to her. It was Kuroka's idea to help Office make some pocket money, since her divine power was so great that as a dragon god, she could give blessings and make certain wishes come true if she was satisfied. Naruto had not tried it himself, but the church trio had, and all three claimed that it did work to a certain extent. Meanwhile, Naruto had found his seat in the center with Rias, Akeno and Ravel, and the rest of their group, with the two Wani-sama of Kuro Academy on either side of him. They were about to play a game of card with Kiba and Gasper, who had finally removed his paper bag mask, when suddenly Kaneko appeared and sat down on his lap, much to everyone's surprise and shock, especially Ravel, as she also had a look of annoyance on her face, as she glared at the cat girl. But Kaneko just shrugged her off and had a happy smile on her face as she got herself comfortable on Naruto's lap. With how happy and content she looked, Naruto knew it would be a crime if he tried to remove her from his lap, so he just let her sit there and smile apologetically to Rias, who had a sullen face as she let out a sigh, but not for very long. Akeno, meanwhile, had an intimidating smile on her face as she looked at them, but Naruto completely missed it, as the train moved through a dark tunnel, passing the barrier between worlds and entering the underworld. The hours passed idly spent chatting or playing games. Yumi, Irina, Zenobia and Ashia eventually joined them in a game of cards, his little familiar proving herself to be a formidable player, as she and Book beat them repeatedly. Eventually, having lost all the snacks that they used as bet money to the magical cat, Naruto ended up playing League with Kaneko watching and giving him tips while still sitting on his lap, even teaching him how to jungle as it was her main role in the game. With her advices, Naruto was able to finish his platinum promo with little trouble, and continue to play till he got to Plat-I for the first time in his life after 7 straight hours of gaming, with the longest winning streak that he had ever had, only stopping for lunch break and tea break. Something that Riaz had to drag him or else he would continue to sit there and continue until he's diamond. The road to challenger and then a pro player sure was long and difficult. "What are you doing, Azazel-sensei?" Naruto asked as he walked over to Azazel and sat down in front of him, watching as the governor of Grigori took out and placed several oddly looking devices on the table in front of him. It was late in the afternoon and several members of the group had fallen asleep, with Kaneko and Ravel laying side by side on a couch, looking adorable as they slept together after another one of their usual quarrel. The church trio had also fallen asleep, resting while leaning against each other on another couch. Riaz and Akeno meanwhile were playing a game of chess while talking about girl stuffs and making shopping plans during their stays in the underworld, so Naruto decided to not bother them. Office, on the other hand, was counting the money she had collected during the past few hours of the trip. With the amount she had gotten, Naruto had no doubt that Ashia, Zenobia and Irina were not the only ones who had been making wishes to her. "Since I am having some free time, I decided to give some love to a certain hobby of mine," the duo-haired man explained with a grin before he made a box appear on the table in front of them. "You remember this?" Naruto nodded. It was the same box Azazel had shown him during the meeting with the leaders yesterday, the box that contained the gift Indra had given them. "Wanna guess what is inside?" Azazel asked in interest, as if he was expecting Naruto to give the correct answer, even though he had zero idea what's inside. Naruto was about to ask Azazel if he wanted to surprise him, until he noticed the smile on the governor's face, and decided to turn his attention back to the box, as Azazel opened the locks. After a few seconds of just looking, as if the answer just came naturally to him despite not knowing how it did, Naruto looked at teacher and answered. "True Longinus." It was not a question. Azazel nodded before he casted a spell and created a barrier around them, a barrier that would prevent holy power from getting out, and alerting the devils in the train car with a sense of dread. Once done, the governor then opened the box and turned it around, showing Naruto the broken pieces of what used to be the Spear of Destiny, the holy spear of the setting sun. And the first as well as the most powerful Longinus, that had given name to the type of sacred gears, with the powers to destroy the world. The sight of the spear alerted those who were awake, but Azazel just waved them off dismissively as he spoke to Naruto after making a gesture toward office with his head. "Obviously, I began looking into these things because I wanted to gather enough power to deal with her, but since she's on our side now, I guess there's no need for me to continue gathering these gods-killing objects anymore. Still, there's still so much we can learn from them, so Xerxes and Michael let me keep it after we got it from Indra." Azazel explained as he picked up the broken lower half of the spear. "I have run a number of tests on this thing but..." He then looked at Naruto and extended the broken piece toward him. "Here, grab it." "You sure?" Naruto asked cautiously as he eyed the spear. He knew that the broken rod wouldn't have the same level of holy power as the blade itself, but it's still the most powerful sacred gear in the world, and the ultimate weapon against devils for a reason. "Yeah, worst case scenario, you will only experience immense pain like there are millions of microscopic blades cutting into every cell of your body." Naruto just gave him a blank look, making Azazel laugh humorously before waving his hand in front of his face as he said, "I'm kidding. Jeez. Relax, kid. You have been cut by the spear itself before. You know it's not that bad." The governor of Fallen Angels grinned before he continued to push the rod toward Naruto. "Come on, take it. For the sake of science." Naruto just looked at Azazel unsurely for another second before nodding, reaching his hand out to grab the broken rod of the spear. Almost instantly, a strange feeling washed over him and Naruto widened his eyes in surprise when he saw arcs of lightning appearing along the rod, forcing Azazel to take his hand back as he looked at the piece in amazement. "I was right," Azazel said excitedly as he grabbed a scanning device and used it on Naruto. "No wonder why the two pieces just don't disappear." "What do you mean?" "Well, normally for a sacred gear, when it's wielded to eyes, it will move on to the next person that it chooses at random. There are spells that can prevent that from happening, or extracting the sacred gear directly from the current host." Azazel answered as Naruto looked at the broken piece in his hand, but anyway, it appeared that the usual process didn't happen to the spear. It has yet to go back to the system or choose its next wielder. "Huh? Why?" Naruto asked in surprise. He wouldn't say that he knew everything about these gods' artifacts, but he had done some research on them back when he first learned about his Runeterra arsenal, to find out exactly what it was. Of course his effort had been fruitless, but it had given him some knowledge on the subject, so he knew what Azazel was talking about. "I don't really know." Maybe it's because the spear's broken. The governor answered, gesturing his hands to the piece in Naruto's hand and the one still in the box. But I do not think that's the case, because both pieces seem to be fully functional when I scanned them. Both? You mean this thing has its own power? Naruto asked in surprise. Originally, no. I am sure that you know the rod itself is extremely durable, but all of the spear's powers, including the 7 treasures Cao Cao had used against us, come from the tip that has been soaked in and blessed by the blood of Christ. He then gestured his hand to the rod, but as you can see right here, the rod seems to have gained a form of lightning power. But what lightning? Naruto said thoughtfully before widening his eyes in realization, remembering how he had killed Cao Cao with Orn's hammer in his Thunder Lord form, and a bolt of lightning that came straight from the Norse god of thunder, Thor himself. It can't be. Azazel nodded his head in confirmation before saying, "It got me thinking, since Orn is the god of forging, is it possible for his hammer to give new powers to weapons, the same way it can break them down while being used by you under the right conditions? You can enhance the cutting power of Durandal, and adding fire element into Kiba's holy demonic sword, using Orn's hammer, correct? Yeah, but the enhancements won't last as long as Orn's, though. Whatever the case, this piece here." Azazel gestured his hand to the upper half of the spear in the box. "Has all the holy powers of a normal true Longinus, the strongest Longinus tier sacred gear in existence. Well, the piece in your hand has the power of thunder and lightning in a way very similar to Mjolnir. It is as if the rod has become a sacred gear of its own, that has chosen you as its wielder, since it is only reacting this way to you, even though you two share no connection that can be found normally between a person and their sacred gear. But I can use it, right?" Naruto couldn't help but ask, looking at the lightning rod in his hand. "If my assumptions are correct, then yes, you should be able to use it normally." Azazel nodded his head with a small chuckle. "I have talked to both Xerxes and Michael yesterday, and we all agreed that you should have it if it showed compatibility to you. Knowing it's in the box is the clear proof that it belongs to you. The rod might not look like much of a weapon now, but I am sure that you can give it to Orn and ask him to." "Nah, I don't think I will, Azazel-sensei. I don't need it." Naruto spoke up with a small smile, interrupting the governor as he raised an eyebrow in curiosity, but he did not look like he was surprised by Naruto's answer. "However, if I can decide what to do with it, then you can have it for your research. I am sure that it will do more good in your hands than mine anyway." "Are you sure, Naruto?" Azazel asked with an amused smile. "With it, I have no doubt that you can grow even stronger than you are now. But that doesn't make it mine, sensei." Naruto smiled as he put the rod back into the box beside the spear before continuing, speaking from the bottom of his heart. "I am happy with Runeterra Arsenal, and the abilities that it gives me. Especially the ones that allow me to summon the characters that I grew up loving to my side, and wield their signature weapons into battles. To me, the joy of being able to fight with my champions is something that not even the strongest Longinus in existence can hope to match, so even if I accept it, I don't think I will ever favor using a lightning rod over the powers of my champions. Plus, I also don't think I will need something that I feel no sense of attachment to anyway, so it will be a waste if you leave it in my hands." Azazel just looked at Naruto for a second before he nodded his head at the blonde with a smile. "Very well then. Don't regret it if I break this thing down to pieces or see if I can give it to someone else, got it?" Azazel asked, his lips curving into a smirk as he thought about all the research he could run on both pieces of true Longinus. Naruto just chuckled at the excited sacred gear fanatic, but nonetheless nodded his head in the end. A few hours later, the train eventually pulled into a station and slowed down to a stop. A glance out the window revealed at least a few hundreds of devils standing outside. All of them were staring expectantly at the train. Not only that, but there were also soldiers wearing formal crimson uniforms, maids and butlers standing in 2 single-file lines on either side of a long red carpet, their expressions filled with joy as they waited patiently and proudly for the young lady of the Gremory Devil household to arrive. "Let's go, everyone." Ryu spoke as she stood up from her seat and walked ahead of the group, as they made their way to the front door, not forgetting to give Kuroka a look and telling her firmly, "Don't cause any trouble, got it?" The black-haired Nekashu mewed in response with a cheeky smile from under her hood, while holding Yumi in her arms. Like how it was with Kaneko, the two got along very well. "You're not coming, Azazel-sensei?" Naruto couldn't help but ask when he saw Azazel still sitting at his table, tickling the devices that he was using on the broken pieces of true Longinus. "Nah, you kids go on ahead." The governor answered with a simple wave of his hand. "I plan to continue through Gremory territory and go into Demon King's territory. I have a meeting with Xerxes and the others there after all. Say hello to my brother, Azazel." Azazel nodded his head at Ryu's words, allowing her to continue leading the group toward the exit. The instant that she walked out of the train, a roar went up. Applause echoed across the station like thunder striking the ground. People cheered and whistled as soldiers aimed their guns at the sky and fired simultaneously. Above them, fireworks exploded, creating vivid colors to ignite the purple sky, brilliant soaring vermilion. Golden and crimson flares bursting into flowers as a soldier riding atop a mythical creature flew across the sky and waved a flag. Welcome home, Ryozoju-sama. While there are so many devils, Irina spoke in surprise and astonishment, looking at the crowd in front of her, while Gasper, of course, was terrified by the large number of people and tried to hide behind Naruto. They're here to see Bucho. Kiba explained with a small smile as Rias raised her hand to wave at the crowd. You guys probably already know this, but she is a popular figure here in the underworld. This is also her family's territory, a rich land that is about the same size as Honshu in Japan. Everyone here is under the protection of Lord and Lady Gremory, so it's not surprising for them to love their daughter and the future heirs very much so. Talk about being a celebrity. Naruto replied with a small chuckle as the church trio looked at Rias with eyes sparkling in admiration, even the one who lacked the most common sense like Zenobia. Rias-sama. It's Rias-sama. You're so beautiful. We love you. People cried out and cheered in excitement as Rias walked past them with the grace and confidence of a noble young lady, having a smile that covered her entire face, as she waved her hand to the maybe overly excited crowd of young devils, and greeted the maids and butlers working for her family when they simultaneously bowed their heads to her. However, Naruto Uzumaki-sama. Naruto Uzumaki-sama. Over here. Naruto then widened his eyes when he heard someone shouting his name, and turned his head to see a female devil reporter, trying to get back a guard with a cameraman standing behind her. Rias then raised a hand, and the guards parted way for the female reporter, allowing her to take a step toward Naruto and begin her interview professionally after a quick introduction to herself. Mary of the Lilith Times. Uzumaki-sama, you have given us Lady Sona, who has risen to become one of the 10 most popular celebrities in the underworld in only a few months. In the battle against the group of terrorists known as Hero Faction in Iceland a few days ago, you had summoned the KDA to your aid, and had them fought alongside you and Ryozoju-sama. Can we expect them to be the next to dominate the media industry of the underworld, along with Lady Sona? The crowd immediately quieted down at that, and all turned their heads from Rias to look at Naruto in expectation, showing just how much they wanted to hear the answer from him. Well, as much as I want KDA to really be a real thing myself, there are copyright issues, and not to mention that convincing Kaisa to perform like her virtual self won't be so easy. He answered honestly. His ability to change the appearances of his champions didn't make them completely different people, as they would retain their personalities and continue to stay true to who they really were. In Kaisa's case it would be no different, even if he changed Kaisa into her KDA look. Under all that glorious and flashy makeovers and clothing, she would still be the same battle-hardened warrior. A fearless and relentless hunter-predator who had managed to survive in the nightmarish realm the Void for almost 2 decades, through sheer tenacity and strength of will alone. It would be extremely difficult for someone like Kaisa to be able to sing and dance in front of a crowd of people like the others. The reporter then continued, moving her microphone back to her as she asked her next question. But if she agrees to be a part of the KDA, will we be seeing them anytime soon? Perhaps in the upcoming Youth Devil rating game tournament to showcase the new game mode, for example. I'm sure I can arrange something special. The organizers of the rating game tournament want their advertising campaigns for the game mode to be successful after all. Naruto answered with a grin, making the crowd whisper excitedly to each other, before he looked up and smiled at the young devils in the crowd. For the time being, please continue to support Sona. She has waited her whole life to be able to showcase her music to the world and be accepted for it. I don't know if I can speak for everyone here, Naruto-sama, but we will. The reporter spoke as the crowd cheered, we will. Smiling brightly and gratefully, Naruto raised a hand and waved to the crowd, before he continued to follow Rias on the red carpet, leading them out of the train station, and to a large chariot that would take them to Gremory residence. It was just as Kiba had told them, the Gremory really did have a territory that was the size of Honshu in Japan, and very rich in nature, with mountains, plains, forests and hills that seemed to stretch out for miles. The land also had a well-developed industry, with the Gremory Large Enterprise being a business enterprise that operated various successful business ventures in the underworld, as well as the human world, where they had several travel agencies and hotel chains in various countries from east to west. The enterprise was also involved in the film industry, and was currently working as a partner of the Phoenix household, who were basically the boss of the media industry in the underworld. Eventually, the chariot pulled up to an enormous mansion. Having stayed there to recover from his state of demonic power exhaustion, after the raiding game against Razor Phoenix and his peerage, Naruto was the only one who wasn't surprised to see Gremory residence. Though it never ceased to amaze him. The layout of the mansion was a quadrangle with a courtyard in the middle. Outside at the entrance was a fountain with a circular flower bed surrounding it, with many gardens in the surrounding areas. Wow, Rias-sama is really a princess. She's really a princess. Ashi gawked, while Irina and Zenobia shared a look of utter shock and amazement on their face, as they started with wide eyes at the castle-like mansion upon exiting the chariot. Welcome home, Oju-sama. Another choir of maids and butlers chorused as Naruto and the others proceeded inside. The crimson-haired heiress smiled and nodded her head to them in return, while the newer members of the group looked around at the servants greeting them. With Grafia now taking the lead, they were then led into a large room that, like every other room in the mansion, held an appearance that was beyond exorbitant, even larger than the main room of his house, with soft crimson carpet under their feet as they walked across the room. The walls were decorated with a quite range of expensive-looking artworks, and a crystal chandelier hung from the exquisite ceiling. Rias. Welcome home. The beautiful brunette spoke up as she walked down the stairs with a middle-aged, handsome-looking man with long crimson red hair just like Rias, that was tied in a loose ponytail with a black hairband. He also had a short and trimmed goatee, and donned himself in a formal, expensive suit that gave him refined aura. The brunette, meanwhile, was a beautiful woman who could have been mistaken as Ria's twin older sister, with the only notable difference being her hair color, and a calming yet somehow mischievous aura about her, as she looked at her daughter and her boyfriend. Otu-sama. Aka-sama. I have returned. Ria smiled at her parents, with her peerage and Ravel lowering their heads to the Lord and Lady of Gremory Devil household. Xiaticus gave them a warm smile and waved a hand for them to raise their head, before he approached his daughter and greeted her with a quick hug and an arm around her shoulder. Welcome home, Rias. He spoke to his daughter before turning his attention over to the devil standing behind her. I see that your own family has grown tremendously over the past few months. Gaspar-kun, it's good to see you out and about with my daughter again. Thank you, sir. The damper, he had put on his paper bag mask, answered nervously. Office-sama, it's truly an honor for us to finally meet you, and to have you here with us today. Xiaticus then turned his attention over to Office and lowered his head to her, his wife doing the same behind him. Please, if you ever need anything, please don't hesitate to tell us. Sure. The Ouroboros dragon god gave a simple answer. Naruto, my boy. Xiaticus then addressed Naruto cheerily as he turned his attention over to his daughter's boyfriend. It has been a long time since we've last seen each other. You're looking well. Thank you, sir. You're looking very well too. Naruto grinned as he shook hand with the older devil, noticing how Vanillana's lips twitched. But he soon found out why. There's no reason to be so formal, Naruto. The brown-haired woman gave a beatific smile as she spoke to him. We would much prefer it if you called us Ka-sama and Tu-sama, or mom and dad. Either way is fine, isn't that right, dear? Yes, of course. Xiaticus wholeheartedly agreed. Aka-sama. Otu-sama. Will a flustered Rias exclaimed. Naruto could only chuckle nervously in response as blood rushed to his face. Though he couldn't help but glance over to Rias and smile at her when she did the same and their eyes met, something that wasn't missed by both parents, who both looked very pleased. It appeared that his first summer vacation in the underworld was just getting started. Your footwork is quite amazing, Naruto-sama. Grafia Lucifuge praised as she guided Naruto across the floor to the slow rhythm of music in a slow dance. Despite having no problem following her instructions, Naruto was getting more and more nervous as he was getting to Grafia, so close that there were times their faces were only a few inches from each other, and her breasts were pushing against his chest as he held her in his arms. But it is as expected, considering that you have become quite skilled in several arts of swordsmanship. I guess. Naruto chuckled nervously in response. Their movement had become slow and deliberate. Why am I the only one getting dance lessons again? The blonde decided to ask, having been called to the room earlier that morning by Grafia to start the dancing lesson. From what he had heard, Ria's mother was supposed to be the one teaching him how to dance properly, but she had to leave for an emergency business meeting with her husband, leaving her with no choice but to call in Grafia to teach him in her stead. Despite being a maid, Grafia came from the house of Lucifuge, a noble family of pure-blooded devils from the extra devils, so it was as expected for her to be able to dance expertly, and fully capable of teaching him to do the same. Kibayudo-san has already mastered these sorts of techniques, as expected of a knight. The silver-haired maid answered as she continued to dance with Naruto. Meanwhile, Gaspar-san is a member of a distinguished vampire, so he knows etiquette. You, on the other hand, are a commoner from the human world, so it will be very troubling if you don't acquire these skills beyond a certain level. In the near future, you will eventually have to make your appearance with Ryuzoju-sama in high society events, so it is very important for you to remember customary practices even a little. You guys are still on about that, huh? Naruto asked with a small chuckle. Sure, I love Rias and all, but don't you think that it's still a bit too soon for us to talk about marriage? I mean, we're still in high school, right? That's true, but I do believe you understand that Lord and Lady Gremory have all the reasons to be looking forward to it, especially after Oju-sama has already openly fought to cancel her marriage engagement with the third son of the Phoenix family. Plus, she has also never shown any interest in boys before you, so it's only natural for her parents to be excited when she can find someone that she can truly be happy with. Grafia explained in her normally calm tone, and Naruto couldn't help but smile at that. So do they know that I am building a harem? Grafia cut him off and continued his question despite the fact that Naruto did not intend to ask something like that, at least in such manner, making him almost trip over his own feet and step on hers. But the silver-haired maid held him firmly and kept him level with her grip on his body. When the blonde stood back up, he could see a rare teasing smile on Grafia's face as she looked at him. What's with you female devils and the word harem? Is it really something that you can say so casually? He asked in disbelief, trying his best to keep a calm tone. Graphia tilted her head to the side as the teasing smile on her face widened even further before she asked. Oh? So someone else other than Oju-sama already talked to you about it, didn't she? More like tease me though, but yeah, I guess. Naruto answered while laughing forcefully. So does her parents know? They do, or at least Vanillana-sama does. If I can see that the girls of Oju-sama's peerage are attracted to you, then of course she can as well. Graphia spoke, and Naruto expected as much from Ria's mother, having talked and gotten to know her during his time recovering from the raiding game against Razor. Though he had yet to decide if that made Vanillana incredible or scary. So they don't mind that their daughter is the only one that I am dating. Or will date. Graphia added, it doesn't matter to them really, Naruto-sama, but the thing that they will be most concerned about is if Ria's Oju-sama is strong enough to take the lead. Vanillana-sama is the one who takes the reins with her husband, so it'd be obvious if she wishes for her daughter to be the same. Naruto widened his eyes at that. No wonder why the two of them were perfectly fine with him having a harem. Again, he's not trying to build a harem or anything like that. I guess the main problem for me is whether the girls that I like will be willing to accept it. I mean, Momo-chan seemed pretty cool with it but... Oh, so Momo Hanakai-san of Sona Citrusama's peerage is the other girl. Graphia gasped lightly with a small teasing smile. I'm impressed, Naruto-sama. I thought it was either Ashiya-san or Keno-san. That's a long reach even for you. Please, Graphia-san, it's not like that. Naruto could only find himself chuckling nervously as he responded to her. Graphia then spoke in a much softer tone, joke aside, you don't have to be so worried about it. After all, it's natural in our world for women to be attracted to men who are both powerful and charming, and for those men to want to be surrounded by beautiful women. You used to be a human, so I understand if the idea sounds very extreme to you, but trust me, you will get used to it eventually. Thank you, Graphia-san. Naruto smiled gratefully at Graphia, expressing his gratitude to the earnest sincerity in her words. Graphia nodded her head at him before she spun him around, making him spin a few times away from her before coming to a stop. That's enough talking, Naruto-sama. Graphia spoke in a firm tone as Naruto turned around to face her. It's time for us to turn our focus back to your dance lesson. As the head maid of the Gremory Devil House, and the personal assistant of Surzich's Lucifer-sama himself, I will not accept anything but absolute perfection from you. So prepare yourself. Bring it on, Graphia-san. Naruto grinned. He has survived fencing training with Fiora, the Grand Duelist, so of course there's no chance that a dance with the silver-haired Queen of Annihilation wouldn't be the end of him, right? Right? Are your feet okay, Naruto-san? Ashiya asked in concern, noticing how Naruto was limping ahead of her. Huh? Oh, just a bit sore from dancing, that's all. Naruto answered the blonde with a grin, making Ashiya look at him for a second. She then grabbed his hand and caused Naruto and the rest of their group to stop and turn around to look at them, before lowering herself down to use her sacred gear on his feet, engulfing them in the healing aura of Twilight Healing. After a second, Naruto's feet no longer felt sore, making him smile gratefully at Ashiya. When she stood up, thank you Ashiya. Please don't mention it, Naruto-san. The former nun smiled bright at him as she nodded her head. With that, the group continued to advance forward, following their master Rias to the gathering of young devils, where they would meet the 4 demon kings and the higher-ups of the devil faction, in preparation for the youth devil raiding game tournament. Since the place was swarmed by paparazzi and reporters, as the tournament was possibly the biggest event of the entire underworld, it had taken them a while to get through the crowd waiting outside, making it very possible that they were the last to arrive. Everyone, I'll say it one more time. No matter what happens, stay in a calm state of mind. The people above are our future rivals, even the ones who had fought side by side with us in Iceland. We mustn't show an unsightly form, understand? Everyone nodded resolutely at their king's words that were filled with fighting spirit. It didn't take long for them to arrive at the meeting floor, where they were greeted by an employee who gave a bow towards Rias before saying with a hand gesture to the side. Welcome, Gremory-sama. Please come this way. Everyone followed the employee until they were met with a group of people standing in front of a pair of wooden doors. It wasn't that difficult for them to recognize the tall and muscular build of Saryr Bale, who's now being accompanied by not just his queen, but his entire peerage. Saryr, Rias called, acknowledging her cousin with a radiant smile as she walked with her peerage over to him and his group. Rias. The Bale heir grinned at his cousin, while his peerage lowered their heads respectfully to her, before he turned his attention over to Ria's peerage, smiling at them as he greeted hello there everyone, Naruto. Hey there Saryr-san. Naruto grinned and raised his hand to bump the side of his fist with Saryr. He then looked at the rest of Saryr's peerage, and much like their king himself, all of them looked incredibly strong. What are you doing out here, Saryr? Don't you want to come in? Rias couldn't help but ask, crossing her arms as she looked at the doors of the no doubt meeting hall. Well, the reason why we are out here is because it has become so idiotic in there. The Bale heir explained with a bitter smile. Sikvera, Sona and the Astaroth were the first to arrive. Zephyr came last, but he immediately picked an argument with Sikver, and the two have been at each other's throats since. As if on cue, suddenly a booming sound was heard from the nearby room, followed by a tremor that shook the hallway. Whoa, sounds like a pretty heated argument in there. Naruto commented as he grabbed Ashiya and prevented her from falling, making her look at him thankfully. He knew Sikver. Someone with a cold and no-nonsense attitude like her wasn't going to accept disrespectful behaviors toward her so easily. This is why I advise not meeting each other before the official meeting. Sariarg sighed before he followed Rias, who had entered the room with her peerage. When the two groups got in the meeting hall, they weren't surprised to see that the place had become a complete mess. All tables, chairs and decorations had been either flipped over or completely destroyed. In the middle of the room, two groups of people were glaring at each opposing party with their weapons and magic at the ready. On one side was none other than Sikvera Gairs and her peerage themselves, while on the other were a group of devils that was being led by goblin-faced devils. Despite the chaotic state of the room, there was a table safe from the destruction at the corner of the room, and one man was calmly drinking tea in the midst of the chaos. Zephyr, do you realize what you just said? Sikvera asked, her tone as cold as ice. Saying something like that to me will get you killed, you know. Do you want to die? Even if I kill you here, I wouldn't be held responsible by the devils on top, you know. The leader of the group with goblin-like devils, Zephyr, replied with a different kind of hostility. Ha! I'm not afraid to say it straight to your face again, bitch. Why don't you go to a private room with me, and I will show you how to have fun, or are you too scared to go anywhere without your guards? No wonder why you're still a virgin who hasn't let a man come near her till now. Geez, all the women of families of the Demon King stink of virgins, and are unbearable. That's why I said that I'd do a formal opening ceremony for you. Yikes, and I think that rat Twitch has the worst attitude. You tell me about it. Every devil present in the room immediately turned their heads over to Naruto and Yumi, with the latter immediately realizing that she had just spoken those words out loud enough for the whole room to hear. Without a pause, she shot behind Naruto and hid behind him with her companion, peeking her head up from behind him to look at the goblin-faced devil who was glaring at her and her summoner, as Naruto merely raised his hands up in defense. We didn't say anything, he said, but knew that no one would trust him. Naruto-kun. To everyone's shock and surprise, Sikvera's expression flipped 180 degrees, and gone was the serious young woman with a cold and chilling aura about her, as she ran over to Naruto with a beaming smile on her face. You're here. It's so good to see you. She greeted cheerily, sounding more like an excited high school girl than a proper young lady of one of the highest-ranking devil families, with the rank of Archduke. Ah, hello Sik-chan. Naruto greeted the Gairs heiress with a smile before he nodded his head at her servants, as they rushed over to her side. Hey guys. What in the Demon King's name is going on? Zephyr asked in shock and disbelief before he stepped towards Sikvera. Hey, bitch. I am not done. Before Zephyr could reach her, Sariarg had stepped forward and spoken up with a strong voice. I advise you against continuing fighting, rebellious son of the Glacial Ebolas family. If you continue any further than this, I will be your opponent. That's your last warning. A throbbing vein appeared on Zephyr's forehead as he glared at Sariarg for those words, his face turning red with rage. Now, listen here, you incompetent Bale. Buong. Before he could finish that sentence, a resounding sound was heard, as Sariarg Bale sent Zephyr flying towards a wall with a single blow, creating a massive crater from the sheer force of the impact. You son of a bitch. Damn Bale family. As Zephyr tried to pick himself up while holding his bloody face, his servants cried out in pure rage and turned to glare at Sariarg, who merely crossed his arms as his own peerage rushed at his side and formed a protective circle around their king. The atmosphere in the meeting room couldn't grow any more intense after that. Take good care of your master. Sariarg spoke up simply with a powerful presence about him. There's still time for you to help him before the Demon King arrive. Even if you turn your swords towards me now, you'll gain nothing but utter defeat. The devils of the Glacial Ebola's peerage gritted their teeth, but didn't take much time to accept their defeat and run over to their master, trying to pick him up only for him to shove them back and do it himself, almost falling over again in the process. Sariarg just exhaled a little, before he looked at his peerage and nodded his head to them, making them lower their weapons and magic, but not their guards. I guess that settles it then. Sariarg said as he turned around to look at Rias with her group and Sikver. I hope that Zephyr will learn his lesson. He looks quite drunk, but still. Rias said with a small sigh as she watched Zephyr and his peerage walking away. We all know that won't, Rias. Sona Citri spoke up as she walked to them with her queen, Tsubaki Shinra and Bishop, Momo Hanakai following closely behind her. Upon seeing Naruto, the white-haired beauty gave him a beautiful smile and a wave of her hand, which he couldn't help but return wholeheartedly. Sona. Rias smiled at her rival and childhood friend, as Sikvera and Sariarg gave the Citri heiress a nod in acknowledgement. Before she could say anything more, her head suddenly snapped to Sikvera when the Gairs heiress grabbed her boyfriend's hand and raised it up to write something into his palm with a pen, appearing to be a series of numbers. What's this? Naruto couldn't help but ask as Sakura finished writing and put the pen away, making it disappear into a magic circle. My phone number, she told him, making Naruto widen his eyes in surprise, and everyone around them to gasp in shock, no one more so than Rias herself. Hey Naruto-kun, if you have free time this weekend, please come to my family's personal resort. My parents have been waiting for the opportunity to meet you, so please allow me the pleasure of introducing you to them. Naruto has a training session this weekend to prepare for the tournament, C-chan. Before Naruto could speak, Rias had grabbed his shoulder and pulled him back behind her to step forward and face Sakura, who instantly returned to her usual cold self, and quite frankly, I'm sure that you should too. At one point, we will be your opponents in the tournament after all. I know that we are childhood friends too, Rias, but I don't remember giving you back the permission to call me C-chan like you did back in the day. The Gare's heir spoke as she crossed her arms under her ample bust, returning Ria's glare with one of her own. Also, the Archduke and Archduchess themselves request a meeting with your pawn. Are you defying their wish, Rias? I am sure they will understand that Naruto needs his training. Rias answered simply, and the two glared heatedly at each other, not needing to speak any more word to raise the tension between them. Naruto could only turn his eyes nervously between them before he looked at Sariarg, asking him with a finger pointing at his girlfriend and Sakura, Sariarg-san, can you use the Great King authority on you, and do something about this too? I think you will have to sort this out on your own, my friend, was the only reply the Bale heir had for Naruto as he gave him a pat on the shoulder. Fortunately for Naruto, the first group of top devils and Demon King arrive, allowing the gathering of young devils to truly begin, and more or less saving him from the trouble of dealing with two high-class strong-willed young ladies, who would probably not listen to him at all. Everyone is gathered, good. An old devil spoke up, as Rias and the other heirs stepped forward, while their peerages stood in 5 straight lines behind them, looking up at Xerxes, the other Demon King, and the leading body of the devil faction. You have been gathered here today so that we can see the faces of all those who will carry the fate of the devil faction. This type of meeting will be held from time to time, so that we can see how the young devils are doing. These 6 are the top and most promising high-class devils of this generation, who carry the tradition of a pureblood and abilities no one can doubt. Another devil spoke, appearing to be one of the organizers of the raiding game tournament. That's why we'd like you guys to compete against one another, as a way of showcasing your power, as well as increasing your strength. Xerxes-sama, may I ask if we are ever going to be sent into battle against the Chaos Brigade? Out of nowhere Sariarg gasped with a firm look on his face, as he looked directly at the crimson-haired Demon King, who gave a smile before answering. I do not know, though I appreciate your eagerness. However, if possible, I would not like to send you. Xerxes answered in a calm tone. Sariarg couldn't help but raise an eyebrow as he continued to question, why, Xerxes-sama? I know that we are still young, but if we don't do anything then. Sariarg, I recognize your bravery and your strength. I have seen them in the battle against the hero faction in Iceland, a battle that the world will never forget where a group of young devils stood up against terrorists, and an army of monsters created to specially target them. Xerxes interrupted as he spoke calmly, but at the same time, you are reckless. Above all, who are still growing. Losing any of you here would be a great loss to not just us, but the future of our faction. I want you to understand. For us, all of you are more important than you think. At that, Sariarg lowered his head and said, I understand. But as Naruto had expected, his expression looked dissatisfied. I'm glad, Sariarg. Xerxes gave a smile before he continued, looking at the other high-class devils. Now before we move on to the upcoming raiding game tournament, we would like to hear about your dreams and hopes. So please, can you tell us your respective goals for the future? Sure enough, the first to respond to his request was none other than the Bale heir himself, doing so without a moment of hesitation. My dream is to become a Demon King, Xerxes-sama. How the devils sitting around the Demon King made a sound in surprise as they eyed Sariarg in interest, curiosity, but also dissatisfaction. The Great King family has never produced a Demon King, you know. Despite being told that by one of the higher-ups, Xerxes confidently responded, his voice never wavering. When the people of the underworld feel that there is no other choice but me to be the Demon King, I will become one. I see. Xerxes and the other Demon King smiled at least Serafo and Ajuka, as the fourth one who Naruto didn't recognize, looked like he's about to pass out. Rias was the next to voice her dream to the Demon King, and as she stepped forward and spoke up her dream of continuing to live as the future leader of the Gremory Devil household, and winning every raiding game match she participated, Naruto noticed the sixth heir. But he had no doubt was Deidara Astaroth, used the opportunity of turning his head to look at Rias to glance even further back and fix his eyes on Ashia. Something that he had also noticed was the fact that every single member of his peerage were girls, and they looked to be former priestesses or nuns of the church. That alone gave Naruto an even worse feeling about the Astaroth heir. After Rias, Deidara and the rest of the heirs took turns stepping forward and telling the Demon King their dreams and goals, until only one person was left at the end, and that was none other than Sona Citri herself, who spoke up. Demon King Sama, my dream is to build a school for raiding games in the underworld. A high-class devil raised an eyebrow in curiosity as he asked, if it's to teach about raiding games, isn't there already one for that? Without much hesitation, Sona responded as her peerage proudly listened to her speech. But it is a school where only high-class devils and devils of privileged social standing are accepted. The school I want to build is one where even low-class devils and reincarnated devils can also attend without being discriminated against. However, with the only exceptions being the 4 Demon King, who looked very interested at the idea. The so-called superior devils laughed. Several of them even had a mocking look on their faces as they looked down at Sona, who seemed to have expected it, and remained calm and composed. Naruto, knowing that he would only bring Ria's troubles if he spoke anything up now, remained as calm as he possibly could. He then looked over to Momo, and could see her shaking in anger while looking up at the devils sitting above them, but she was among those who were better at controlling it than the rest, namely Saji and Issei, both of whom were glaring at the devils sitting above them. Their eyes met for a brief second, and Naruto gave Momo an assuring nod, which she returned after taking a deep breath to calm down. That is impossible. I'm sorry, but it can't happen. Oh, I understand, you dreamy little girl. How good it is to be young. However, for the next Citri family heirs to have that kind of dream, I have to thank you for making such a good joke. In the midst of all this, Sona then spoke up frankly. I'm serious. Calming down from his laughter, one of the superiors spoke as he pointed a finger at Sona. Sona Citri Dono. Low-class and reincarnated demons merely work for their masters, us high-class devils, and are chosen only for their talents. Wouldn't the creation of this school be a lack of respect for traditional families, who value prestige and tradition? No matter how much people say us as a species have entered a period of change, change can be good and bad. Something like teaching mere low-class devils is none of your business. Don't ridicule Kaichu's dream, Sona-sama like that, Saji shouted in anger, unable to control himself anymore, beating Issei due to it as he tried to step forward, but was held back by the girls of Sona's peerage. Look how you talk, young reincarnated devil. Sona Dono, your servant has not been properly trained. Another superior devil scoffed as he glared at Saji. I apologize. I'll talk to him later. Sona merely said with her head lowered before she narrowed her eyes and scolded Saji. The young man also looked like he wanted to say something to her, but he held back and stepped back. Geez. All of you adults are getting together to bully my sister. Seraphol suddenly spoke up, looking to be in a very bad mood. I know that I am a demon king, but as an older sister I have my limits, you know. If you keep trashing her dreams like that, then I will have to do some bullying on my own too, you know. She finished with a cold tone as the temperature in the hall dropped so much one could see their own breaths. The group of devils around the Demon King gulped nervously while sweating bullets and trying to avoid her glare, deciding to keep their opinions to themselves from there. I think if Sona and her peerage can prove themselves in the upcoming tournament, then there wouldn't be anything to complain about, right? Surziches asked with a small smile before continuing, looking at his sister as he said, why don't we use this opportunity to set up the first match of the tournament as well? Rias and Sona, would you like to be the first to face off against each other? The two heiresses became surprised at his suggestion. They looked at each other, but at the same time neither looked like they had anything against the idea, both knowing sooner or later they would have to face off against each other in the tournament. Naturally, we would love nothing more than to see the peerage with the young devil who gave us the idea of the new game mode in action first and foremost. Surziches spoke, explaining as he looked at Naruto. On the other hand, I am sure that Sona and her peerage are dying for the chance to prove themselves and solidify their shared dream. I don't think we can start the tournament with a better matchup than this. The rest of the group of adult devils couldn't help but agree with him, as they turned to whisper to each other, and nod their heads approvingly at his words. Lucho nodded her head at her brother, and then turned over to Sona to flash her a defiant smile, which the Citri heiress returned with a mocking smile. You should feel honored, Rias. It appears to me that you will be my first opponent in a raiding game. Now that we're up against each other, I'm not going to lose to you, Sona. Then that settles it then. Surziches said with a warm smile. Seraphol, meanwhile, looked very happy too as she stood up from her seat and cheered, a match between Rias-chan and Sona-chan. Yes. Ijuka then spoke up for the first time, smiling at the two heiresses as he leaned forward on his seat. The date of the start of the tournament, and your match, will be the 20th of August in the human world. You can enjoy your time as you wish until then. Details of the match and rules will be given later. And with that, the first match of the tournament between Sona Citri and Rias Gremory had been decided. I see. So it will be a showdown against the Citri group. It was the morning after the gathering of young devils. Naruto, Rias and their groups, with the additions of Ravel and Arena, were currently sitting around Azazel, who had in his hand several documents, as he spoke to the group in the large garden of Gremory residence. Today is the 28th of July in the human world, so you guys will have 20 days to prepare for the match. Azazel nodded his head as he stroked his chin, handing the documents over to Ravel, so she could hold onto them for him. It's best that we start your training right now. Sure, some of you have overcome your own limitations, but there are more rooms to grow. I've already made the training list for each of you right here. He stated, tapping the stack of documents Ravel was holding. I'm grateful and all, but is it okay fair for the other team if we receive advice from the governor of the fallen angels? Naruto couldn't help but ask, raising his hand to voice his opinion. In truth, no. Azazel answered while shaking his head. It actually comes down to the pride of you young devils, whether or not you will accept third parties' help. This tournament sure has become a big event everyone in the world is looking forward to, but at its core, it's still an opportunity for you young devils to grow stronger. Not to mention that the organizers wish for the tournament to be a blast, so that they can bring the new game mode into official rating game, and there are different agendas going behind the scenes as well. So of course they will have people like me giving out advices that every team can use to increase your chance of winning. And I also heard that Seraphol asked the Blaze Meteor Dragon and a former Dragon King Tannen to train the two dragons of their groups, so trust me when I say that it's fair for you guys to receive my help. Riaz and her group widened her eyes at that. It appeared in 20 days they were in for a real challenge, so let's begin with the king, Urias. Azazel began, picking up a file from the stack of document Ravel was holding and handing it over to Riaz before saying, "Well, the new game mode is no longer about winning by eliminating the king from the game. I have reasons to believe that the organizers will still find a way to make it an extremely valuable target, so you will need to increase your strength individually." The governor explained as Riaz read the instructions on the note from the beginning. You have been exceptionally talented even for a high-class devil. Even if you live your life normally as you currently are, you will eventually grow to become the highest class devils, possibly even beyond ultimate class. However, your wish is to become stronger than you would in that future, right? Yes. Riaz nodded her head firmly. Then follow your training according to what is written on that file. Azazel said also, you also need to improve your quality as a king, the leader of your group. What you will need is quick-wittedness and clear judgment to deal with every situation your opponents throw at you, and figure out a way to help yourself and your peers defeat them. For the time being, besides your training, you will also need to learn everything you can about your opponents, understanding their strengths as well as weaknesses, and most important of all, prepare for the new game mode. The full rules have yet to be revealed, but I trust that you will prepare for everything. Understood. The crimson-haired heiress nodded her head in understanding before she took another look at her training regime. Next is Akeno. During the battle against the hero faction, you have accepted the blood that flows through your veins, and tapped into the power of holy lightning, yes. Despite looking a little bitter, Akeno nodded her head and accepted a file from Azazel like Riaz. You will stick to your core and train to increase your demonic power. You will follow the special training I have for you to master holy lightning at the highest level. Also, as the queen of this group, you are the second in command. You need to make sure you two can lead them if your king isn't in position to do so. Yes. Akeno said simply. Kiba and Zenobia. Azazel then turned his attention over to the two knights of the group and spoke to them, while handing out two files. Kiba, you need to be able to maintain your balance breaker longer. About your swordsmanship, I have talked to Saji. He's willing to start from square one with you, correct? Yes, sensei. I intended to start my training from the beginning. Good. And Zenobia, you need to work on your mastery over Durandal. Azazel looked at the blue-haired knight and spoke to her as Zenobia read her file. You also need to work on your technique. Learn to be calm and compass. Sometimes, charging headfirst into a fight with everything you have is not the way to win it. You're next, Gasper. The governor of Grigori then snapped over to Gasper, who flinched and exclaimed fearfully. It didn't take much for them to realize that he scared him on purpose. Obviously, your biggest problem is your fear. Your sacred gear is immensely strong, and at the moment you have a teacher who can show you how to properly work around it. So what you need to work on is your confidence, as well as your power as a half-vampire. Yes. I will give everything I got, the damper said with a nervous nod. Next is Ashia. The former nun flinched as she was addressed by Azazel. You will work to improve your strength, stamina and magic. Also, your main task will be to strengthen your sacred gear. I understand. Ashia nodded resolutely. The speed of your recovery ability is already great. However, the problem is the range. You need to be right next to your allies to heal them, correct? We can't have that in a fight. Also, the biggest weakness of your ability is also your best quality, which is your kindness. Your kind nature will end up healing both allies and enemies alike, so we can just work to increase the range of your twilight healing into something like a healing aura around you. I recommend that you should learn how to fire her healing power like a projectile. Also, every time you guys go into a fight, Naruto always leaves Yumi behind to protect you, correct? Ashia glanced over to Naruto before nodding her head. Yumi was currently playing with Kuroka in her room, keeping her company because she could not leave unless under supervision, so she was not present at the moment. Well, you should also try if you can work with her. She's a strong healer, but like you, she can only give her support to the one she's attached to. See if you two can work in tandem with each other. Also, don't forget about your familiar. He's young, but he's still a dragon and can provide you with some offensive powers. I understand. I'll do my best. Even though she looked extremely nervous, Ashia responded with resolve in her voice. Good, now Kaneko. I have zero complaints about your qualities as a rook, and you have also removed your own limitations, so I actually don't have any special training for you. Azazel spoke, much to Kaneko's surprise, but it wasn't hard for her or everyone else to know where he was getting. The best that you can get is from your sister. Continue to train under her, and I am sure that you can grow to become one of the most powerful rooks. Okay then. The white-haired girl nodded her head. Last but not least, Naruto. Everyone then looked away from their files and turned their attention over to Naruto, as the blood stepped forward to receive his training. These are all yours. What? The blonde exclaimed in shock as Azazel grabbed the whole stack of documents and handed it over to him. These are all the theories that I have had so far on your sacred gear. Azazel stated with a smug smile as he rubbed his chin. I want you to test them all out, see which of them is possible, and then report back to me ASAP. This is. The blonde's eyes widened in awe and amazement as he picked up a file from the stack and gave it a quick read. You will like that. I had that idea when you told me we could control the Mecha Kingdom next with your permission. Azazel nodded his head before continuing. If even one of those abilities is possible, it will be the real game changers for you and your team in this tournament. Aside from that, your actual training will be more or less like Kiba's. You need to be able to maintain your balance breaker for a longer duration. You will also need to work on your technique, stamina and magic ability. So basically everything. Naruto asked with a deadpan expression. It made him remember that meme when a pro league team was so bad that the fans would joke about the fact that they only needed to work on basically everything to become the best team in the world. It's not that they aren't already good enough, just you having even more raw power than your master is a clear proof of that. However, I do believe you still have plenty of room to grow even stronger than you already are now, given the right training and teacher who can help you explore your full potential as a devil. Teacher? So I will have a special teacher for my own training. Naruto couldn't help but ask with an excited smile. Who is it? Azazel merely did a gesture with his head, and Naruto looked over that direction to see the silver-haired Queen of Annihilation, Graphia Lucifuge, standing in the hallway of the mansion, looking at him from a window with a stern expression on her face. Thanks for listening. I do hope you enjoyed. If you want the next part of this video, like, subscribe and comment down below, and turn on the bell notification. And also check out other videos that I have created and enjoy. See you in the next video. Peace.